Things that keep also adding to the intrigue of Mars is misleading or misinterpreted features on Mars. In fact, maybe I'll cross this out because misleading sort of to make it imply that it's Mars's fault. Mars is misleading us, but maybe it's more some of the features we see are misinterpreted. And let me just show you a few here. So this is sort of a famous one here that always pops up. In this particular, this feature here looks like a face on the surface of Mars. Again, maybe some intelligent being or civilization is honoring the gods or something, and they built an upwards-looking face, or it's a big burial ground or something. But as you can tell, um, who knows what it is. And so what happened is we maybe get a little more higher resolution imagery that's better as the technology gets better. So maybe in 1976 with the technology back then, you can see the face a little bit in there, and perhaps it looks a little bit intriguing to you. Slightly better resolution camera, better shot, makes it look like this. And of course, the most recent picture of the same feature reveals, well, it looks just like the top of a mountain or a hill with a bunch of cracks in it. So you can go back down to the original image right here, and you can see that clearly the illumination is coming from this direction right here. And how do I know that? Because the shadows are all cast on the other side. So obviously a shadow is getting cast there and here, and there's just some features on there that make it look like eyes and things, but they're just shadows. But clearly you can tell it's just the downwards look on a mountain with some particular topography. Same sort of conclusion over here. Okay, so the face is one of them, kind of famous one here. That's actually what it looks like now. And there's no face to be seen, but definitely some interesting features carved there that cast shadows in particular ways. That might have been one of the eyes right there. This looks like a little bit of a peak right there. And so if the sun was indeed maybe coming from this direction here and there was a big peak, then it does seem plausible then that maybe that would get all filled in with a dark shadow right behind this peak right here. And there's one of the eyes, that kind of thing. The face on Mars, and there's sort of a side view of it. And I don't see a face anymore. And of course, one of the famous ones is the big heart here, when we're all like to be loved and that kind of thing. So here's a big heart on Mars here. That may be some intelligent structure carved out or bulldozed to advertise the peace and love of Mars. Who knows? And these things just pop up all the time. These are even recent here. This rock or whatever it is right there looks like some kind of reptilian lizard or a frog or something living on Mars. This image right here, you can see, sort of looks like a helmet or a hat that someone might have dropped or something. Sort of what the close-up looks like right there. And this one just came out recently, very recently, literally in the year 2020, early 2020, something like that. So what are we looking at here? A landscape of Mars grabbed by one of the rovers that's on the planet. And if I can just orient myself properly, I believe if we zoom in, let me see, I'm kind of losing it here. If we zoom in sort of in this region right here, let me see. Oh, I don't think it's quite, I think we're off the edge here, but somewhere in here. But if we zoom in quite a bit, you can find this image online. It's a high resolution JPEG. You can zoom in yourself. But down in that lower left corner, if you zoom in, you can see, looks like a little mouse living on Mars. See, right there, you can see right there. There's like the eye right there and sort of the head right there, and there's a little body and sort of sniffing the ground, whatever. So this just popped up just recently. So I think part of the problem is that, not part of the problem, but part of the issue is that NASA, the images that it takes are all public. You can go on NASA's website and download the latest images that the rovers are taking because there's all taxpayer-funded missions and things like that. And so people grab the images and start scanning them and just finding these things. And it always adds to the intrigue. So it isn't really like a problem. It's all sort of in good fun and that sort of thing. But Mars just, I think probably forever will always hold this intrigue. And because the surface can be seen, it's not like Venus where the surface is totally covered with clouds. You can see the surface of Mars even with your own telescope. And then NASA's releasing these images and just, hey, why not just grab in there if you're interested and just go start looking for things that look like, they look like something that might be alive or whatever. But at the moment, it's all sort of a hoax, and they're just rocks and sunlight, shadows, and images can play tricks with our eyes. But in either case, that's just sort of the fun stuff, and you can just find this all the time on Mars. A quick Google search, you can find all kinds of interesting things people think exist on the planet, and it'll likely continue, but just take them all with a grain of salt because we're pretty sure that there's a little mouse not actually living on Mars, because as you know now, there's things like the solar wind and the cold. I mean, how on earth would the little mouse be surviving there? But in either case, okay, there you go.